Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'd like to welcome you all to the June 7th Board of Education meeting. The board has already met in executive session, but we did not salute the flag. So we'll start with a salute of the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 7:06. You're welcome. And Mr. Crude is kind enough to be doing the board secretary duties while Mr. McLaughlin is not with us this evening. If we could have a roll call, please.
Sure. Ms. Beckman?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Here.
Mr. Salmon?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Ms. Gray?
Here.
Ms. McEwen?
Here.
Ms. Korn?
Here.
Ms. Hira?
Here.
Thank you. Madam President?
Thank you, Mr. Crude. Again, welcome everyone. It's nice to see so many people here in person and for some really exciting celebrations of achievements, so that's great. I'm going to have to bore everyone with this statement. So this is a regular meeting of the Board of Education of Bernards Township. Notice of the time and place of the meeting was provided, and copies of the resolution were forwarded to the official newspapers as designated by the Board of Education and to the Township Clerk, and a copy of the notice was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education offices in accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231A. Due to the pandemic, the Board of Education requires that in-person attendees to this meeting complete and pass the visitor screening form at the sanitation station in the Ridge Performing Arts Center entrance, wear a face covering, sit in a socially distanced manner from members of different households to the greatest extent possible, maintain social distancing if waiting in line to make a public comment. For those members of the public who are unable to attend our meeting in person, there are two live stream links of the meeting posted through the district website, www.bernardsboe.com. The two live stream links are both airing our meeting. Each simply backs up the other to be prepared for possible technical difficulty. We very much welcome input from the public. There are two times during regular meetings that the public is invited to speak. One is early in the meeting before the board votes, when you may speak about any item that is listed on tonight's agenda. Toward the end of the meeting, there is another public forum to address any matter of public concern related to the schools. When you approach the microphone, please state your name and address. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes of duration. No participant may speak more than once during a given public comment session. In order to run efficient meetings and allow a maximum opportunity for members of the public to speak, the board reserves the right to set a different time limit for individual comments, which we will not be doing tonight. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. For the members of the public who are not attending, public comments may be submitted via email. Starting at 7 p.m., email your comment to btconnect@bernardsboe.com or text your comment to 908-292-3047. Use public comment as the email subject or the start of the text message. Indicate your first and last name and address. You must submit your address for your public comment to be included. Public comments made in person will be processed first, then comments submitted by email. No public comments sent via email will be accepted before 7 p.m. or after item 23, board forum on the agenda begins. Please understand the public comment portions of our agendas are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. The board may or may not respond to public comment. Any board responses to public comments will generally be addressed during board forum or during committee reports. However, all comments are considered and will be investigated and addressed as appropriate. Please be courteous and mindful of the rights of others when speaking. Comments may not be abusive, obscene, threatening, or irrelevant. Please understand that students and employees have specific legal and privacy protections. The board is not permitted to respond to public comments about students or employees. Please also understand that the board will not be responsible for the content of comments made by members of the public. Members of the public are cautioned that they are speaking at their own risk, and any personally directed statements they make may subject them to legal liability to the affected individual. If it is necessary for the board to go into executive session at the end of the meeting, we will provide an estimated length of time for the public session and whether any action is anticipated to be taken upon return. With that long-winded introduction, Juliet, thanks for being here. Would you like to share the student representative report?
Yep, thank you so much for having me. So, as the year draws to a close, numerous Ridge activities celebrate their students' ongoing accomplishments. From the Spring Dance Showcase to the Forensics NSDA's Nationals, Ridge students continue to excel right up to the end of the year. In the past few weeks, juniors and seniors have enjoyed their respective proms, which I'm sure was a logistical nightmare to plan after the chaos of this year. However, despite the challenges, I am happy to report that it was a successful night to remember for both grades. And lastly, as graduation approaches, I want to personally thank the Board of Education for extending an invitation for me to attend these meetings throughout the year. During such a tumultuous time for both students and administration alike, I was honored to represent my class and pass information between the student body and board. Thank you so much for having me this entire year.
So Juliet, we want to say thank you to you because you've been very dedicated to this role, and I don't think you've missed a meeting, which is very impressive. And we appreciate how you have endured some really long meetings because we don't ask the student representative to actually stay through the whole meeting, and you have done so tirelessly, so thank you for that. And we also want to say a collective congratulations from the board. We understand that you received some very nice honors at Senior Awards Night. So congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so then the next item on our agenda is the statements from the candidates for the board vacancy. So if we could ask Nimish Amin to join us at the microphone. Yes, right here.
Can you guys hear me, or is this good?
We can hear you.
So, good evening, board members. Thank you for allowing me to be considered for the vacant position on the board. My name is Nimish Amin. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I've been in Basking Ridge since 2005. My wife and I moved here. Since then, we've had 2 kids. We outgrew our townhouse in 2011. So when we were moving, we specifically focused on Basking Ridge, especially because of the school district. We've enjoyed our time, the teachers, the energy from the principals, the community, and we are still in Basking Ridge. I now have a 4th grader and a 7th grader for 2 more weeks, soon to be 5th and 8th graders at Mount Prospect and William Annan. And I'm looking to see how I can help contribute to the school excellence that this town has offered us, and we are here for at least 8 more years for my younger son to finish high school. I want to be able to collaborate with the team. I work as a corporate lawyer for 20 years. My work involves a lot of collaboration and teamwork to solve problems, especially right now with so many different opinions, so many changes going on. I think it's important to take everybody's input and then come up with a solution that works and to move forward in a way that is practical and still keeps the Basking Ridge School District the way it is. I am very eager to work with you. My work right now allows me some flexibility to attend board meetings and be a part of it. I want to commend the board for all the hard work. I know it must have been just complete chaos. Unfortunately, I think there's still a little bit more chaos to come, and I want to be able to help participate and solve problems as best as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Nush. We appreciate you coming here tonight, and we appreciate your interest in the board. Next, we'd like to invite Carl Bird. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me this evening. My name is Carl Bird. I live on Village Drive and for the past 9 years, but I've spent my entire life living within 5 miles of this building. First, I want to say I'm grateful to the other candidates who also want to serve our schools and our community. It is a testament to this board and the school leadership that we have such an interest in this vacancy. For many of us, it is this organization and this school system that is the deciding factor in what brings people to our community. I, like other parents, wish to provide for my children a world of opportunities. Good schools make that possible. I am a teacher. Before I tell you about my skills and qualifications, let me tell you what motivates me. In everything I do, I strive to help young people become the best versions of themselves. I am motivated by those light bulb moments when a student finally gets it. I am inspired by the fact that the work they did today is better than the work they did last week, and that the work that they will do 6 months from now is better than the work that they will do tomorrow. I am inspired by the look of their faces when they have a concert, a play, or a sporting event. The mission of this organization is aligned with my own personal beliefs. I believe that a successful education is more than just test scores analyzed by rankings. It is measured by how we prepare students to continue to learn when they leave our doors. It is measured by their social and emotional learning. It is measured by the community that we make for students. It is measured by how we support students through dark times and how we celebrate them in their triumphs. It is measured by how we get all students of all backgrounds and all abilities to maximize their potential. I know I'm not alone in this. Based on the mission and vision statement on the district's website, I sense that this is precisely what you believe in too. An ancient philosopher once said that if you want to plan for 1 year, grow rice. If you want to plan for 10 years, plant trees. If you want to plan for 100 years, educate children. I've spent my entire professional life educating our future leaders. I am married to an educator. I'm certified as both a biology teacher and a special education teacher. I've advised co-curricular organizations for music, theater, special needs students, and students with aspirations of seeking careers in the medical field. I'm my school's mentoring chair. I organize my school's extended school year. I'm a member of my school's diversity, equity, inclusion training team. I'm my district coordinator for standardized testing for students that need accommodations. I've sat on committees for instructional technology, curriculum, school improvement, sustainability, principal selection, reopening, strategic planning, and more. In 2016, I was part of a team that was focused on teacher evaluation that won a grant from the Department of Education. I also teach as an adjunct faculty member at Fairleigh Dickinson University. So I've assisted university faculty in developing teacher education programs for teaching STEM in elementary settings. So I'm familiar with the multiple measures of post-secondary readiness that our students face, and I know how their families feel. I hold degrees in both special education and educational leadership. I've assisted my school's administrators in numbers of different settings. So I'm familiar with the aspects of school finance and educational law. My background provides me unique insight into the diverse needs of schools. I look to serve. Prior to learning of this vacancy, I already hoped to serve on this board, and I have already filed with the county clerk to run for the board in the November election. Community service is rooted deep in my family. My family roots in Bernards Township go back earlier than the signing of the Declaration of Independence. My family has a history of serving this community, both through the Department of Public Works and the Liberty Corner Fire Company. I hope to continue that tradition of serving Bernards Township by being a member of this board. Sorry, the papers are sticking. I understand that the role of this board is an advisory organization. If selected, I look forward to working together collaboratively as a part of this team. I come here tonight not with any ulterior motives or personal agenda. My only hope is that I can help the board continue to grow our programs so that when my children, I have a 2-year-old and I'll have a daughter on the way in November, when my children and the children of others in the community go through these doors, we can say together that we have done everything we can to help them become the best versions of themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Our next candidate is Titus George. If you could join us at the mic, please. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Titus George. I am a dentist by profession. I graduated from NYU College of Dentistry year 2000. After graduating from NYU, I did 2-year residency program at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. After that, I practiced in New York, and presently I own a dental practice at Bound Brook, New Jersey. My educational qualification prior to joining dental school here includes a BS degree in chemistry major and MA English Language and Literature, both from Kerala University, India. Also, I had a Bachelor of Dental Surgery degree from Kerala University, India, and also finished a year mandatory residency from Medical College, Trivandrum, India. I believe strongly as a school board member, there is a lot of possibilities in shaping our next generation. The world we live now is a single unit compared to our past generation. People and knowledge travels fast. We all know that COVID-19 changed the way we teach students. Online learning became the new norm. We are dealing with students who are intellectually above and tech savvy than the previous generations. As a board member, I will embrace science and technology to teach the students and support them to be responsible citizens to face the new brave world we live now. As per my availability, I am open for the board meeting as per the schedule. My long-term vision as a board member is to provide guidance and support to the younger generations in getting the best possible education to become responsible citizens of the world, competitive to face the challenges of the world without compromising the human compassionate nature. The biggest challenge we may face in the coming year will be the post-COVID situation and how we can find the best way to provide the best education possible to them. I believe in lifetime learning. I will like to contribute my time for the betterment of the school district as a medical professional and a teacher in my profession itself, mentoring young professionals in my field. I think I can do the same as a board member in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Titus. And then our final candidate is Gudiya Singh. Welcome.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you for having me come today to talk a little bit about why I want to be on the Board of Education at Bernards Township. So I was thinking about this meeting and what I wanted to say to all of you, and 2 quotes came to mind. Helen Keller said, "Alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much." When I think of this quote, I think of community and education. I feel that this district has been built on with these underlying goals in mind. When my family and I were house hunting some 5 years ago, we were drawn to Basking Ridge because of the excellent school system. My husband and I both grew up in loving, education-focused communities outside of New Jersey, and we only wanted to have that experience for our children as well. Moving to Basking Ridge and living in this town now for the past 5 years has proven to us that we made definitely the right choice. When we moved here, it was the summer of 2016. My eldest daughter at the time was 7, and she was just about to embark as a second grader at Mount Prospect School. She was very anxious going into a new school where all of the children seemed to know each other since preschool or in diapers. So she had a little bit of anxiety from that. But I, as her parent, wanted to get involved in the school system right away. And so that was a twofold solution. I appeased her anxiety a little bit, and I also immersed myself in the MPS community. I got the chance to meet a lot of people. I signed up to be her class mom at second grade, and I was so impressed with the organization at the elementary school level. The teachers, the staff, Mrs. Hosney were all very wonderful, warm-hearted individuals, and really did everything in their power to get our family successfully comfortable right away. When my daughter started 5th grade, I again became involved by volunteering to co-chair the 5th grade events and had a chance to work with Mrs. Hosney again. Under her guidance, we fundraised, advocated for our children, and made tremendous plans for a send-off for our 5th graders who unfortunately didn't get to have it since COVID hit. Everything changed completely. When we got to WAMS this past fall, I felt the urge to get involved as a parent and join the PTO board as president. I have learned a lot this past year working closely with Mrs. Hudak as the liaison between the parents and the staff. I've also been very fortunate to be involved on an administrative level with Mr. Markarian on a couple of school-related committees. I've been actively attending Board of Education meetings since moving to the district 5 years ago, even watching via Zoom over this past year. It's shown me how incredibly dedicated everyone on the board is to the success of this community and our schools, even with this monster pandemic that we've been facing. It's been quite a humbling experience to see how hard you all work and how hard the staff works behind the scenes to get our children back to a new normal life. But that is what you all do, and that you all do it with the utmost professionalism and kindness and with a constant smile. So we're all here wondering how you all do that. In the coming year, I feel we will face a lot of challenges with COVID. One of the biggest challenges is getting back to a completely normal life where children are in school, in person, learning as they should be. I'm 100% supportive of getting our children back to school where they should be. If elected to join, I plan to support the board's decisions with everything I have. I'm completely willing and ready to do this for the long haul, as I also have a kindergartner at Liberty Corner School and a 4-year-old who will join the school system in the fall of 2022. From a professional perspective, I'm dedicated to the wellness also of my community. I started my career at Goldman Sachs as a wellness executive, bringing services to our employees and traveling the globe to set up wellness offerings. That position taught me how to execute policies and safe practices professionally and in a timely manner. From Goldman Sachs, I went on to culinary school and then integrative nutrition school. I now work as a trained chef, licensed in health and wellness. I own a small local business and work with many members of the community. Because it is my own business, my schedule is flexible, and I can reassure you that I'm available for Board of Education meetings, committee meetings, and trainings. The second quote that comes to mind is, "Education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and world better than you found it." This was said by Marian Wright Edelman. She was an American activist for children's rights, and she influenced lots of leaders, including Martin Luther King Jr. and Hillary Clinton. I feel very connected to this quote through my role as also a Girl Scout troop leader. In 2016, I started a local chapter at Mount Prospect, which is still active today. Our troop has 10 wonderful girls who I've had the pleasure of working with over the past 5 years. I've seen them grow into strong, thoughtful, bold young women, and one of our themes is to leave the world better than we find it. Being on the Board of Education, you all are doing that already, and I would just love to be a part of that process. I'm ready to observe, learn, advocate for our children. They are our future, our community's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gadia, and thank you to all of our candidates for coming out tonight. The board is going to adjourn into executive session and we will discuss the candidates, and we will be back as soon as a determination has been made. Yep. So if we could have a motion from Mrs. Korn and, I don't know why I can't see you over there, Ms. Hira, thank you. Oh, and there appears to be a set of keys on the stage. If they belong to someone in the audience, feel free to come up and grab them. And we will be back after we are finished. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we deliberated. Everyone's here, right, on the board? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion for nominating one of our candidates? Ms. Schaefer.
I would like to nominate Gurdia Singh, please.
And do we have a second? Ms. Beckman? Is there anyone who would like to make another nomination? Okay, so then seeing none, I will close the nominations. And Mr. Crute, we need a roll call then?
Yes.
So could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Crute. So we'd like to invite Ms. Singh up here, but before that, I'd just like to thank all of our candidates for coming out this evening. Your interest in serving on the board is always appreciated. Clearly, we've heard that one of our candidates this evening will be running in November, so we'll look forward to that. And we hope that you'll join us here at our public meetings as we continue this school year. So Ms. Singh, if you could join us. You're going to come up over here on the right, and you'll be sworn in. Mr. Crute is going to do that.
Oh, shoot. Then we'd be able to hear both of us, I think, hopefully. I'm loud anyway. So, I, state your name,
I, Gurdia Singh,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the government established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Same thing. I
I, Gurdia Singh,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter
and that I am not disqualified as a voter
pursuant to
pursuant to
statutes.
the statutes,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1. Let's take that one at a time, all right?
Okay.
Let's say, and I am not disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense
I am not disqualified due to a conviction or a crime or offense
listed in 18A
listed in 18A
12-1,
12-1,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crute, and welcome, Gudea. Mr. Markarian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. And again, just wanted to echo Ms. Gray's sentiments with respect to all the candidates that came out this evening. It's certainly humbling to see the enthusiasm from the community in wanting to serve. So thank you to everyone who came out this evening, and congratulations to Ms. Singh. At this point in time, I would ask the Board of Education members and our newest board member to find a seat somewhere in the front area of our auditorium. And actually, sorry, we did forget one thing. Sorry, my bad. You might notice that we have some flowers sitting up here on Ms. Gray's right. And the reason for that is that as we welcome a new Board of Education member, we wanted to take a moment to thank the outgoing Board of Education member that made this vacancy available. And so we would have done that at the last Board of Education meeting on May 24th, but unfortunately, the person that we wanted to honor was not available for the May 24th meeting. However, she was available to join us this evening, and I see her out in the audience. Miss Karen Richmond. We would ask Karen Richmond if she wouldn't mind just to come up to the stage here, because I know that our board president would like to provide a gift for you on behalf of the Board of Education. Okay. Thank you.
I just want to say for the benefit of the public that Karen served on the board for almost 8 years. She joined the board in the very same way that Gudea did tonight as an appointment, and she's been an exceptional board member and friend, and we will miss you. And with that, now I think the board is going to go down into the audience so that we can honor our teachers.
Okay, sorry about that. Got ahead of myself with all the fun things this evening. So equally exciting to congratulating our outgoing board member and our incoming board member. We also have some exciting events planned with respect to recognizing our Teachers of the Year, which is really a special opportunity. As everyone that's ever worked in a school system knows, the teachers are at the heart of what really happens wonderfully with our students. They are there every day with the students, making the magic happen, as they say. So it's really a privilege to be able to recognize our teachers. We have many teachers this year that we want to recognize. Sometimes we are able to have both our Teachers of the Year together with retirees. We have a lot of retirees this year, so we'll be recognizing our retirees at the next Board of Education 1 week from tonight. But this evening, we're going to focus our energy on recognizing our Teachers of the Year. So without further ado, we're going to have each of their principals speak on their behalf, and we're going to start with Cedar Hill School. Mr. Simpola.
So I'd like to welcome Ms. Taylor Curlew up to the stage. And Taylor, I got you flowers, but even better, I got you a cookie from the Powerhouse 5th grade celebration this afternoon. And it's not melted completely. Okay. No, stay. Taylor Curlew is an outstanding teacher. We are fortunate to have her among our faculty at Cedar Hill Elementary School. Taylor, from the moment she walked through the door, has been a breath of fresh air and a burst of exuberant energy. Ms. Curlew began her career at Cedar Hill as a mid-year replacement for a beloved music teacher. It did not take long for Taylor herself to become a beloved teacher among the student body, parents, and faculty. Whenever I walk into Taylor's classroom, there is an amazing excitement in the air. Students are on task and thrilled to be in class. Taylor teaches her lesson singing much of the instruction. It is a joy to view and listen as students watch her model a concept, practice it together, and then gradually assume responsibility for their instruction, practicing the concept in small groups or individually. Taylor will often use instruments such as bongo drums, recorders, xylophones, bells, and boom whackers to assist her students in experiencing music instrumentally as well as vocally. Beyond the classroom, Taylor has become a go-to teacher for her colleagues here at Cedar Hill. She regularly assists administration and guidance with our monthly assemblies. In fact, Taylor wrote our school song, setting it to the tune of a popular song with which our Golden Owls are familiar. Taylor introduced this alma mater at a whole school assembly, practiced it with the students, and over several assemblies and in class. Taylor has served as the musical director for our annual 5th grade musical the last few years. She regularly works with the director, assistant director, and administration to select the play that is appropriate, challenging, and developmentally achievable for our 5th graders. In a similar vein, Ms. Curlew conducts our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade choruses. Like the school musical, her musical selections are impeccable. She strives for developmentally appropriate yet challenging music for each chorus, selecting a variety of pieces that include popular culture, American and other cultural backgrounds. Her choral presentations often include movement, such as clapping, finger snapping, as well as props and the incorporation of selected musical instruments. Her choral presentations are lively, enjoyable, heartwarming, and show a true progression in the musicality for our Cedar Hill Golden Owls. Beyond Cedar Hill, Taylor is involved in community theater in the Central Jersey region. It is her love of musical theater that is evident in her teaching. 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of watching Taylor and one of my 5th graders, who were both cast in a production of Evita at Plays in the Park in Edison. The student benefited tremendously from Taylor's presence and reassurance at rehearsals and performances. In fact, several times the students' parents commented to me that having Miss Curlew there was a huge bonus to their child, emotionally, socially, and theatrically. Taylor is actively involved in the New Jersey Music Educators Association. Last year, I was particularly impressed by and proud of an email I received from a teacher in Newark. The teacher relayed to me that Taylor had posted on the NJMEA about available sets and props for the play from our fifth grade had performed the previous year. This teacher described herself and her school as, quote, the lucky recipient, and that Miss Curlew's thoughtfulness and kindness has eliminated a huge amount of stress from my production. I am a music teacher at Oliver Street School in Newark, New Jersey. There are many challenges teaching in an urban district, and I appreciate more than words can express what Taylor has done for me this year. At nearly every rehearsal, I say to the art and physical education teachers, I produce the show with how blessed I feel for her donation, end quote. It is this thoughtfulness and kindness that I see in everything that Taylor does as a teacher and as a person. These core attributes, combined with her love of music, theater, and teaching, have produced an amazing educator, an educator who is already leaving her mark on her students, her school community, and the educational community of Central New Jersey. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simpola. Congratulations, Taylor. Next up, we have Dr. Oliver for Liberty Corner School.
Okay, Liberty Corner's Teacher of the Year is Mr. Chris Carey. Where are you at? Come on down, Mr. Carey. What's that? I didn't get you a bouquet of flowers. Mr. Carey is he's taught third grade at Liberty Corner School. He's currently a fifth grade teacher. Mr. Carey is a dedicated teacher who's focused both on the academic and the social development of his students. He has proven to be a collaborative member of our school community, and he is always up for a challenge to train and work with his colleagues. Choosing Mr. Carey to be this year's Teacher of the Year was a very easy decision for us. What stands out most about Mr. Carey is his dedication to the students and the staff, which comprises not of just LCS, but all of Bernards Township. He is always willing to give his time, especially during this past pandemic. His focus is not on the credit of his actions, but he acts because he truly believes in our profession, and he truly is a team member. Thinking back to Mr. Carey's interview, and I've brought this up to him a few times, and his demo lesson, what really stood out to me was his engagement to a group of children that he never met. I've continued to be impressed with Mr. Carey's interactions and instructions of students, which is based on a manner of great compassion. He's the type of educator who first listens, then assesses a situation to make a decision. Mr. Carey is an educator who is always willing to incorporate new and innovative practices. He's an educator who truly has a child-centered focus. A Liberty Corner staff member shared, and this is how they talk about him, Chris is amazing to work with. He always goes out of his way to help. He is always a step ahead with technology needs, and he always provides wonderful suggestions, which is truly accurate of Mr. Carey. He truly is a big part of our Liberty Corner school community. It is with great pleasure that I recognize Mr. Carey as our 2020-2021 Liberty Corner Teacher of the Year.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Oliver, and congratulations to Mr. Carey. Hopefully we can get all of our Teachers of the Year to stick around till we get all of them recognized so we can get a nice photo op here. You might notice these signs sitting on the stage behind me. These are kind of coveted because they represent a designated parking place that we post for the Teachers of the Year. So we'll share those here in a minute. Next up, we have Ms. Hosney for Mount Prospect School.
Good evening, everyone. I am so very excited to call, well, she's already on her way down, Miss Katie Miller. Round of applause. I, like Mr. Sampola, have flowers for you, but I don't have a cookie, but I did wear lipstick for you, so there you go. So there, we know that's a big thing. Okay, stay. Okay. Miss Katie Miller holds a master's degree in reading from Centenary College and a special education certificate from Rutgers University. Ms. Miller began her teaching career in a private early childhood center, and then she became a member of our staff in 2014 as an in-class support special education teacher. During her tenure, she has filled many roles. She has worked as a reading specialist for grades K to 5, and currently, she is a first grade teacher. Ms. Miller is a highly respected member of the school community and is an outstanding teacher and educator. She's intelligent, dedicated, caring, motivational, so very sweet, and so wonderful. She has done a myriad of things to better support herself and her team and the school. Ms. Miller has served as a valuable resource in the following ways. You thought Seesaw was just something you play on the playground? Well, she is a certified Seesaw. That is the platform for our kindergarten, first, and second grade students. She became a certified trainer as an online learning tool to ensure that lessons were rigorous and developmentally appropriate. She individually assisted teachers who had questions or needed guidance on this platform or on other technology needs, not only for the teachers in our school, but also for teachers across the district. She instructed colleagues through staff college professional development and building connections toward everywhere in the classroom. She participated on our district curriculum writing teams. She's a resource for her colleagues at any time, even up to like 11 o'clock, midnight. I know she answers every text and very, very quickly, including mine. Thank you for that. She has served as a grade level leader, which she currently is this year, but she has in the past. Ms. Miller is always generous with her time, going above and beyond to complete tasks for her grade level. Using her very calm demeanor, she has found solutions to problems before seeking input from administrators, and that's the best thing, isn't it? Her lessons are creative, engaging, and very dynamic. Her incorporation of technology as a motivator, instructional tool, and for assessment are just unparalleled. Her positive attitude and love for teaching and children are reflected in the outstanding quality of the program she maintains at Mount Prospect. As a classroom teacher, Ms. Miller welcomes the challenges and opportunities each new school year presents, and she makes an effort to connect with her students. Ms. Miller exemplifies teamwork, dedication, patience for everyone and everything around here. She's also has become an expert creator in every perfect Pinterest item for her class. She can spray paint, she can hammer, nails, no problem. She does everything with a smile. You have to see her classroom, it's amazing. As a teacher, she is always a reflective practitioner and always challenges herself to improve her teaching. This year, she served as a virtual teacher during the pandemic. She continuously devised ways to connect with her students both academically, socially, and emotionally. She took on every challenge head-on with a smile and a we can do this attitude. Ms. Miller was never afraid to take a risk and try something new. Whenever we had a question, she was one of the first people that I called. Ms. Miller was never afraid to take a risk. I always admire her ingenuity and dedication to our school. She's created an amazing grade level atmosphere. She's rallied her team during these hard times, and she's become an expert at balancing the home and school connection. No matter what life has thrown her, she has taken it with a smile, and you would never know. Mount Prospect has a positive atmosphere and is filled with talent, dedicated educators, just like Ms. Miller. We are truly honored to have Ms. Miller represent our school community as this year's Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
So it's interesting, and you might have noticed listening to our 3 elementary principals, how difficult it was to select Teachers of the Year this year. And I know that I heard that from all of the principals as they worked on this project this year because of the obvious challenges that this year has brought us, and how a lot of people have really stepped up and worked really, really hard. And I feel like everybody should be getting a Teacher of the Year award this year, and a Parent of the Year award, and a Board Member of the Year award. It's really just humbling to be able to work in this district with the commitment that everyone demonstrates. So just wanted to share that with you because people have been really working above and beyond. So with that said, we'll leave the elementary realm here because our Oak Street candidate for Teacher of the Year could not be here tonight, but we've made arrangements. She should be able to join us next Monday night, so we'll catch up to her then. But for now, we're going to go to Ms. Hudak for William Annan Middle School.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. Mr. Brian McGowan, please come on down. I too didn't get you flowers, but there is a dinosaur costume on the way coming for your next orchestra performance. William Annan Middle School Teacher of the Year for 2021 is Mr. McGowan. Mr. McGowan is a member of the WAM's Instrumental Music Department, focusing on our string musicians in his work with the middle school orchestra students. Mr. McGowan's methods of instruction focus on the unique needs of each of his students. He builds strong connections with them and provides them with the needed encouragement to succeed at whatever they try to do. His calming demeanor, approachability, and excellent sense of humor are powerful attributes and tools in his classroom that enhance his students' success, his presence at all times. In addition, Mr. McGowan goes above and beyond to provide various special opportunities for his students to engage in meaningful activities beyond the classroom walls. He frequently brings in guest artists from his professional contacts that provide the students with clinics, lectures, and guest-conducted rehearsals, an experience that some of them are once in a lifetime for our middle schoolers. They add depth to the instruction he provides to his classroom, and they give our students opportunities to see where their skills that he teaches them can take them as they grow into adult musicians. His colleagues note that Mr. McGowan consistently goes above and beyond to provide excellent education to his students. He programs a wide variety of repertoire as engaging and approachable themes for each of his concerts, which gives his students a strong connection between the technical skills they learn in the class and the broader world outside the classroom. In addition to the efforts he makes within the classroom, Mr. McGowan is constantly seeking out continuing education opportunities to further and hone his own craft. He has been selected to participate in conducting master classes taught by notable professional conductors, advancing his ability to communicate effectively with his student during rehearsals and lessons both through conducting and rehearsing techniques he learns at these experiences. He has been selected from a large, very large, pool of his peers to conduct the New Jersey All-State Middle School Orchestra, as well as New Jersey Region 2 Middle School Orchestra, both ensembles twice. A huge honor and well-deserved for all of the hard work he puts into his calling. Mr. McGowan also conducts the New Jersey Intergenerational Orchestra, rehearsing and preparing musicians of all ages for several yearly concerts, including some of our own WAMS past students. Mr. McGowan is an integral member of our school community at Annan. His passion for music, his skill, which he balances hard work and humor, his willingness to go always above and beyond to help his students and colleagues are just a small reason why he is so deserving of this honor as WAM's Teacher of the Year. Congratulations, Brian.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Hudak, and congratulations to Mr. McGowan. Last but not least, Dr. Lasvik for Ridge High School.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian, and congratulations to all of the honorees tonight. The 2021 Governor's Educator of the Year for Ridge High School is none other than Ms. Fiorella Bologna. She come up. I have neither flowers nor food. Your picture still hangs on my door. I did not wear lipstick for this evening, but I probably could have told you I did, given the masks. Miss Bologna is so beloved that her supervisor is sitting next to her to cheer her on, and was so excited tonight that I had to arm wrestle her for the privilege of giving this speech, and the only reason I'm standing in front of you is because I cheated. So, I began my tenure as principal of Ridge High School just this year, and one of the very first people to come right up to me, and if you know Miss Bologna, you will know what I mean when I say right up to me, even through a Zoom meeting, believe it or not, and welcome me with open arms and genuine care was Miss Bologna. Ridge has proven over the past year for me to be a truly wonderful place, and this is in no small measure due to the staff members that we have, staff members like Fiorella Bologna. Fiorella is always a genuine presence, giving energy, positivity, and hope to everyone around her since she started working at Ridge 12 years ago. Her positivity is her single most defining trait. She's popular and beloved by her colleagues, leading by example, attending their staff colleges, sharing classrooms and creating interdisciplinary connections, and exploring students' academic and emotional needs. Her passion influences all of her students, motivating them and helping them find success. With her support, they have won scholarships as well as trips to Italy, excelled on advanced placement and other exams, and continue their educational pursuit of Italian. Most importantly, though, her students continue to use Italian in their careers and their lives. She has made them and has become herself an integral part of the Ridge High School family. Her influence, though, does not stop with our school. Through her commitment and organizational skill, she's impacted our larger Bernards Township community, establishing bonds with parents, participating and often organizing community events, and even offering Italian classes and cooking lessons for parents and other members of our community. Ms. Bologna has built a presence beyond our school, and she uses this presence to the advantage of our students, demonstrating a consistent natural ability to lead, to organize, and to build. She is, in my experience and the experience of her colleagues, always the first to volunteer when help is needed, but also shows great initiative, identifies things that need to be changed, and demonstrates a consistent ability to create positive change for our students, our staff, and the larger community. At Ridge, we have more than 150 professionals. Ms. Bologna greets every single one of them by name at our faculty meetings. She knows their personal stories. They look to her for counsel and support. They trust her judgment on instructional matters. They follow her professional leadership, and they look to her for support as a person. She is a beacon of positivity, and she is an unstoppable force when she sees an opportunity to help someone, a student, anyone. Ms. Bologna is a true collaborator. I have learned that in my time here, and she has proven time and again that she can be depended upon without fail. Just last week, she volunteered to chaperone our prom, and I must say honestly that even the vibrant and spectacular surprise fireworks that were present pale in comparison when compared to her supreme energy and her true love of our students. It was absolutely no surprise getting to know the staff members as I have this year when they selected her to represent our school. She is a true educator, and I am proud and honored to present you, Ms. Fiorella Bologna, as the 2021 Ridge High School Teacher of the Year.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Lazovic, and once again, congratulations to all of our Teachers of the Year. As I mentioned earlier, everyone is so deserving of this award this year, so it's a special year indeed to be chosen. At this point, if we could just take a quick minute and ask our Teachers of the Year to come down right into this area and just maybe hold up your designated parking sign so I can get a quick photo op, and then you can leave the signs here after the picture because we'll install them for you. Chris. Yeah, you guys can all head back up, thanks.
I think Nick's going to be in there. Okay, everybody, back to our agenda. Oh, no, not back to our agenda. For those who might still be here, we want to congratulate all of our Teachers of the Year. We're so grateful for all of our educators in Berners Township. It's an exceptional group, and these are, 5 great examples of that. With that, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Markarian.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we have 3 items on the agenda. Items 2 and 3 are just some speaking points I wanted to share a little bit about. Item number 1 is one that we need a motion and a second for to do a roll call. It's the HIB report.
Mr. Salmon and Ms. Schaefer. And then a roll call, please, Mr. Crute.
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes?
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Ms. Singh.
Abstained.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So a couple other items I just wanted to share a little bit about and explain an agenda item coming up here in a moment. I mentioned at the last Board of Education meeting that the third round of federal grants is being processed right now through application associated with the pandemic. I mentioned last week that the grant is called the American Rescue Plan, or the ARP grant. Some folks are referring to it as the third tranche of federal funding or federal grants associated with the pandemic. And as part of that application process for those funds, which number approximately $2.2 million, we need to have what is called a safe reopening plan. I wrote about this a little bit in the SOS Express message on Friday to try not to alarm anyone. The safe reopening plan is simply something that is a template that we need to file as part of this grant application. It is not anything that changes our plans with respect to being reopened. We have already reopened. We are already here full-time every day for all of the students that want to be here in person, and we have every intention of continuing that in September, having schools fully open 5 days a week for all students, and pursuant to some of the governor's statements of late, that will be for all students to come to school in person without a remote option for the fall. So we have our plan set. We plan to reopen fully in that manner. However, as part of this federal grant, we do need to have this template done, and I did share a draft of the template with the public in my message on Friday, as well as with the board members. And there are basically three aspects to this safe reopening plan. Number one is about maintaining health and safety in the school district with respect to practices like hygiene, sanitizing things, keeping things clean, physical distancing, wearing masks, the kinds of things that we have been doing all year. And with respect to those, essentially we're saying we'll do what we have to do, whether that is guided by the Department of Health, the governor, whatever is necessary is what we will do with respect to these additional precautions that we have been doing all year. Certainly, we've all been following the news, seeing a lot of things relaxed. I fully anticipate that those relaxations will continue to the point that we get some real clarity about what is allowed in schools. I know that we had a significant announcement last week on Friday afternoon with respect to the lifting of the public health emergency while still maintaining a state of emergency in New Jersey. So we received that information on Friday. We are looking at that, and I have been told that there will be accompanying guidance produced by the DOE and the DOH relative to how that new executive order should impact schools. So as I mentioned, we will be following that guidance as we work through the necessary health and safety protocols for really not just the fall, but as I have also inquired with respect to the extended school year programs. But the first part of the safe reopening plan is about health and safety. The second part is about ensuring continuity of services, especially with regard to special needs students and meeting the needs of learners. As I described in this plan, our individual education plans, our 504 plans, our tiered systems of support, the way we differentiate instruction, how we monitor students, with grades and with the team model at the middle school. Those types of things are how we're going to ensure a continuity of instruction for students. And health needs are met through the nursing services, who also manage our free and reduced lunch program. So these are the kinds of things that we need to include in the plan. So number one, health and safety. Number two, continuity of services for students. The third aspect required in this safe reopening plan is with respect to public comment. So I need to gather public comment feedback on these topics associated with the safe reopening plan, to the extent that anybody would like to share that. We'll have an opportunity for that here at this board meeting. And we also have a Superintendent's Advisory Council this meeting where I will solicit further public comment. The last part of the plan is not only accepting the public comment, but also describing how the final plan will be shared. I will disseminate the final plan to the school community. As I mentioned, right now it's a draft form, and we're looking to take comment on it. And of course, we'll post it to the district website and send it out to parents in both English and Spanish versions. So that is the safe reopening plan. And in a moment, if anybody would like to make comment about it, certainly that can be taken into consideration as we finalize this document to be submitted, again, as part of the American Rescue Plan grant application. Now, that grant application is the reason that I wanted to mention number 3 under Superintendent's Report, which on our agenda says 1 student, 1 computing device. This is commonly referred to as one-to-one or a one-to-one model of providing technology devices to students in the school district. And the reason I wanted to mention it is because it is a topic that we have talked about off and on over the past several years as to whether or not the district should invest more into technology to make, for example, Chromebooks available to our students on a one-to-one basis. We are at a point in this district right now where we are already beyond 2-to-1, meaning 2 students to 1 computer. We're beyond that. We're not quite to 1-to-1, but we're better than 2-to-1, so to speak, if 1-to-1 is the goal. So the reason I mention it associated with this safe reopening plan is that these funds have been coming at school districts kind of hard and fast in the last several months with respect to federal grants. And so this last round of funding that I mentioned is slated to be $2.2 million. Now, how that all plays out remains to be seen, but it does certainly represent an opportunity that may connect to an obstacle that we've met in the past when it comes to considering one-to-one, because it means investing more in technology, which means having more money to invest for technology. And this grant may represent an opportunity to have the necessary funds to invest more in technology so that our teachers and students would know what kind of environment technologically they would be working in the fall. So my plan is to create a more formal presentation for the next board meeting a week from tonight, to do some slides and to talk to the board a little bit more in detail about how this may be possible and look for their consideration. We have talked about this a little bit in the Board of Ed Curriculum Committee meeting, and when those minutes are finished, I would expect for the next meeting we'll talk about that as well. But I just wanted to give people some insight as to the fact that there is a new round of grant funding, and that new round of grant funding may offer an opportunity to achieve a little bit more with technology.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. That leads us to our next item, which is, as Mr. Markarian indicated, public comment on the safe reopening plan. For anyone who might like to speak at this time, this is specifically for public comment on the safe reopening plan. This is not for any other agenda item. There'll be a separate comment period for that.
Sherry Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road. I know your plan includes requiring students and staff to continue wearing masks in the fall because that is the state mandate we have. I know you have to follow the state mandates. And it's easy to say there's nothing you can do, you just have to follow what you're told. I'd like to see you do more. I'd like to see you advocate for our kids. Are you aware that over the past 2 weeks, many districts around the state have sent letters from the superintendents and Board of Educations asking for the mandate to be lifted for masks now, and certainly in the fall. I would like for our district to join that effort, asking the governor to lift that mandate. I've read the road back plan from New Jersey Department of Education that you guys used this year, and I know that's really what you're still using to plan for next year because you don't have anything new. It outlines the mask requirements along with the exceptions that are allowed by Executive Order 175. I don't understand why our district is not following the guidelines that we currently have to make exceptions for people wearing masks under certain circumstances. My son has been attending virtually all year because he has autism and he cannot comply with the mask requirements due to his disability. I have to help him with all of his sessions because his disability is that severe. So I am on with teachers in classrooms and I see what's going on. I do PE with him and I see what's going on. And they're wearing masks when they're doing aerobic activities. And there's a specific guideline in the executive order that says that when they are physically distanced in a gym, indoors, they don't have to wear a mask if they're doing strenuous activity. We're wearing masks in our gyms and there's 5 kids in this classroom. Somebody had an emergency Friday and ended up getting sent home because they almost passed out in Ridge High School. I just need to understand why we're not following the current guidelines. Even today in the heat, students were wearing masks during PE. And we all know the governor posted on social media. And if you didn't get it sent to you, I'd be shocked. But he said, in-school masking requirements include exceptions for extreme heat. School officials are empowered to make the best decisions for their buildings and communities. I don't think that our school officials are making the best decisions for our kids right now. I couldn't tell you how many people sent me statements from other districts today who said, based on the tweet from Murphy today, masks are optional for the rest of the year. The cafeteria, the classroom, the school buses. Are we going to do the same? I think we need to. I don't think it's a safe situation for our kids. Also, the executive order states that there is an exemption to wearing masks for students with disabilities, as long as that disability is documented in their IEP. Instead of following those guidelines, our district staff members are telling parents that students who are disabled have to work on tolerating a mask as part of their program, that a new goal and objective will be added to their IEP that's geared toward tolerating a mask, and that any student who cannot tolerate a mask for the full day has to provide medical documentation. Are you all aware that this is happening? It's not any part of the executive order.
Excuse me, ma'am, just interrupting for a second. You've reached your 3 minutes, so if you could just try to wrap up, thank you.
Okay. I see there's a long line of people who want to make public comments. So I need to know because guess what? The virtual option is ending for ESY. And it's not safe for my son to be at school wearing a mask because he can't tell you, I can't breathe, I feel dizzy, I feel lightheaded. He can't communicate with anyone that he's having trouble. The emphasis on mask compliance as an IEP goal is completely unacceptable given his disability. And it's really unclear to me if it is the school staff that are misinterpreting your directives, or is our district intentionally not following the executive order correctly? I need someone to help me understand this. And my last quick questions for the back-to-school plan is, Mr. Markarian, for the special ed students, they've had no community-based instruction this year, and we need to know when that's coming back. They've had no home programming that's in their IEPs, and they all have programs here at the high school to work on learning meal prep in the kitchens. They're not allowed to use our kitchens to practice making a sandwich. All of this needs to be part of the plan that you're making for the fall. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Jenny Cuda, 151 Thackeray Drive, Basking Ridge. I want to thank you all first for all you've done this far to ensure that our school district has gotten back 5 full days to school. We really do appreciate it. With that being said, with our approach and positive outcome to every advancement we have made, we need to now follow other states and work toward moving social distancing and masking requirements. There have been many districts who have sent letters to Governor Murphy expressing the need to have their own guidelines in school updated to reflect our current situation and to match the approach of our neighboring states. I am requesting that the Bernards Township Board of Education send a request letter to our governor asking to change the quarantine rules, the social distancing, and to make a mask an optional policy. This is the least that we can do on behalf of our students. For all of the children in our district, next year needs to be a normal school year. We need to change our guidelines to remove social distancing and to make masks optional. With the children being allowed to play contact sports without a mask, this only seems the right thing to do. The impact that this pandemic has had on our children's mental and social health is much too large to continue this way. I am asking that you please write to the governor to express these sentiments and to work as a board towards creating our own guidelines for Bernards Township School District that reflect our commitment to our children's mental and social well-being. Thank you.
Hi, Nella Oliveira, and I'm at 83 Galloping Hill Road in Basking Ridge. I also would like to have the board, I know that we are really late in the year, but just to reconsider moving forward in terms of masking mandates. My daughter is a junior here at Ridge High School, and I can tell you that last week during junior prom was the first sense of normalcy that these kids have had in over 18 months. When the schools reopened, which we are so thankful that they are back in school 5 days a week, there was no guidelines as to where these kids eat. There was nothing available in the vending machines. There still is nothing. She actually sits here in the pack, row L, seat 125. And that's where she's allowed to have a snack of some kind. So, you know, as much as we appreciate that the schools reopened and that they were able to come back into school, my daughter's vaccinated. Many of the kids, I get the Honeywell alerts for all the vaccinations on a weekly basis now. I know that many kids are getting vaccinated. I implore you, just please, moving forward, as you're planning what is to happen in the fall, please think of the mental and emotional well-being of our children. Too much went on this year. It took a severe toll on our kids. We need to do better. So I am asking that the board, it's not just about the academics. Of course, we know everyone is putting that at the top of the list, but please think about their emotional and mental well-being and what it's like having to be distanced all day long, having to wear the mask all day long, not knowing where they can have a snack. So just please think about that moving forward. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Doherty. I live at 76 Manchester Drive, and I'm here to ask you to do two things. Make masks optional in our schools for the remainder of the year due to excessive heat, and oppose Governor Murphy's continued mask mandates in our schools. As you know, when the governor lifted the state mask mandates, he excluded schools. This despite the fact that every adult who comes into contact with school-aged children or school employees has had ample time now to be vaccinated should they choose to do so. And of course, kids over the age of 12 are now also eligible for the vaccine. While kids under the age of 12 are not, the fact remains that the COVID fatality rate for kids is 0.01%. Given the fact that many kids with COVID are either asymptomatic or have only mild symptoms and are therefore not even tested, this number could be even lower, although it's pretty hard to get much lower than 0.01%. Despite some misperceptions to the contrary, the lifted mask mandate in New Jersey does not distinguish between vaccinated or unvaccinated people. While it is recommended that unvaccinated people continue to wear masks, it is not required by New Jersey law. This means that kids can now be maskless in Target, ShopRite, restaurants, arcades, movie theaters, or while engaging in full contact indoor sports such as wrestling or basketball, but they cannot be maskless in schools, inside or out, according to the governor. It was 91 degrees today, and many of our kids, and I'm going to imagine the teachers as well, were miserable, uncomfortable, and couldn't breathe. What are we doing? I'm no infectious disease expert, but Anthony Fauci is. In fact, he's our country's leading infectious disease expert. And in an email he wrote in February of 2020, he said, "The typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through material." Yet perfectly healthy kids remain masked in our schools every day. Despite Fauci's words, despite the high rate of vaccination, despite the 0.01% fatality rate for kids, despite the low number of cases, hospitalizations, and rate of transmission, and despite all logic and common sense. There are now 27 states in this country that have either banned mask mandates in schools, have mandates expiring at the end of this school year, or have left decisions up to the individual districts. If New York follows through as planned, that would be 28. So far, superintendents and/or board members from 23 New Jersey districts have written to Governor Murphy to push back on his continued confusing and contradictory guidance. And at least 8 states so far today, districts today in New Jersey made masks optional for either the remainder of the week or the remainder of the year due to the extreme heat. I'm asking you to join them. You've received a lot of criticism this year and not enough positive feedback for what you've accomplished. You eliminated the quarantine rule for out-of-state travel when you felt it didn't make sense, which made it easier to keep our kids in school. But most importantly, you got our kids back to school, first 5 days a week and then full-time. That was you fighting for our kids, and I'm asking you to please keep fighting for our kids. Write to Governor Murphy and tell him to lift the mask mandate in our schools, and please get the masks off of our kids' and teachers' faces in this heat. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Iwan Juwana, 150 Thackeray Drive, here Basking Ridge. So thank you again for opening up the school full-time, but there is just one thing I wanted to remind you guys that today is the day 450 since the lockdown, and our kids are still wearing masks. So, I mean, when I came in earlier today, I just saw like a lot of high school kids was outside practicing singing or something, and they were all wearing masks in the heat. I mean, why do we do that? So all I'm asking right now is just try to make masks optional and then write to Governor Murphy that, to eliminate the mask mandate. Like we have seen, like in other states, that they already eliminated mask mandate, and we can argue all day long, but a lot of young people are very resilient to these kind of things. So I just want you to consider the best thing for our children. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Paul Zublake, 82 Church Street, Liberty Corner. The turnout here tonight is shocking. I don't know what has happened to the district. They think that it's magically all going to work out and everyone's going to follow the science. The amount of positive cases in Bernards Township, I believe in the last week, is actually a negative number, cases. I'm just talking about the reality of the current and what's going to happen in the future. The current is obvious. As everybody has already said, due to the heat issues, immediately, I can't believe it wasn't done today, the mask should be optional. You'd probably get 99% of the kids taking off, hopefully the teachers, considering they're vaccinated. The other part of this is that you guys are sitting here right now. You don't answer, I guess you're not required to answer our questions or our complaints, and you're going to take notes and take it back. But you're all sitting here masked. I guarantee you, you're all vaccinated. So what are you doing masked when you're vaccinated? And the other part of it is natural immunity. We're living in this, bizarre world where people do not consider natural immunity the same as vaccinated immunity. Matter of fact, natural immunity is most likely more of impact against this terrible freaking disease. So there's just no accountability because I think our kids are going to wear masks tomorrow. What is excessive heat? The funny thing is, Miss Nelson brought up somebody had an issue on Friday. Well, you know who that was? It was my son, Alexander Zubalek, an 18-year-old special needs kid who worked out outside without a mask and then came inside, put a mask on, and they were doing yoga, and he basically passed out. Very sympathetic. Principal spoke to him, fantastic job. The nurses, very sympathetic. The teachers, very sympathetic. Tremendous. I called the superintendent's office. Nobody got back to me. So obviously, there's no accountability because you didn't get back to me. So the reality is somebody actually had an issue on Friday. You guys are probably not aware of that. You may be. But I wanted to make sure I was hoping we'd actually have some people here, but maybe on TV they're watching, is that there has been an incident, and again, it's not about the teachers, it's about the policy, okay? The policy lacks everything imaginable and common sense. Just because our governor just loves to be on TV all the time doesn't make your job any different. Push them. Take off your masks. If you're vaccinated, take off your masks. It's absurd. We'd like to see the facial expression of you people. Our poor kids, identity is lost with masking. I went to the dance recital a month ago. The poor girls were all wearing freaking masks, dancing. Some of them were huffing and puffing. They got through it. God bless these kids. They're fantastic. Our kids are great. Our teachers are great. Our administration, I think you're all politicians. So let's take the mask off tomorrow. Thank you.
Evening. Keith Molinari, 27 Franklin Drive, Basking Ridge. Thank you for having the meetings in person. I've been a Zoom contributor frequently. It's nice to be able to do this face-to-face. I want to echo what a lot of people have said. I'm not going to recite the statistics and the science, and I think clearly points to where everybody feels we should go. But I want to just acknowledge some of your successes this year, just for common sense. One of my saviors for both of my kids, I have a daughter in WAMS and a son at Ridge, has been sports, which has given them a great sense of normalcy this year. That's something you all did. You didn't have to have the sports programs this year. Some school districts didn't, especially last fall. But you did it. You didn't have to. It was a common sense decision. So I think now we're asking you to make more common sense moves. We realize your hands are tied by the Department of Health, the governor, the powers that be, and you can't necessarily directly buck that. But I would ask that you make the common sense moves to do what some other school districts have done. take a more liberal view of the governor's comments today that masks can come off in excessive heat. Join West Milford, Clark, Deptford, and numerous other school districts that I haven't quite looked up yet, but other people have referenced. Write that letter to the governor. Write the letter pushing for guidelines next fall not to include masks or social distancing. If enough school districts do that, then he might get the message and amend his executive orders to where they should be. Again, take the common sense approach. You've done it before. You can do it again. We're not asking you to do anything against the state or against the Department of Health guidelines, but write that common sense letter and urge the governor not to have a mask or distance requiring next fall. Thank you.
I don't see anyone else seeking to make a public comment, so I'll close public comment for this section of the agenda. Mr. Markarian, would you like to comment on anything?
Sure. So thanks everybody for your comments tonight. It's really helpful. Obviously, you know, we've had a lot of change in executive orders over the course of the year, and you know, you read one executive order and it tells you to look back at 15 others. So it's been an interesting roller coaster ride to try to chase down everything that is expected. But from a common sense perspective and masking, we did back in May talk to the staff, and in fact I wrote about this a little bit. I think it was on May 21st with respect to masking, and it was generally with respect to kids being outside in the heat, whether it was for recess, for sports, or for a general PE class, encouraging that we would let the kids take their masks off in those settings. Obviously, the last few days have seen quite the, you know, the heat wave, if you will. So I think it's perfectly reasonable that when the kids are in that kind of heat that they're not wearing masks, which was what I was trying to say a few weeks ago in May. With respect to being indoors, I think it's reasonable if they're indoors in an appropriately air-conditioned space. There's no reason that we can't continue to follow the current EO and have the kids wear masks. But there are exceptions, as were noted tonight, relative to Executive Order 175. And certainly, I think that excessive heat, even if it's indoors and the kids are not necessarily doing something aerobic, is a reason to cite the first item listed in that Executive Order 175, which is really about general health conditions. The second item there actually refers to being outside, so that one doesn't help us when we're indoors, but the first one we could probably use in spaces that are becoming oppressive because air conditioning is not working. And I do know that that happens. It feels like the air conditioning might not be working as well as it could right in this space, but that has happened. We get problems sometimes with lightning, power shortages or power outages that knock out, you know, a wing of controls. The HVAC controls sometimes get knocked out by power outages, and we have to reboot everything. So in those settings, I certainly think it's perfectly reasonable. I don't know that I would recommend at this point an all-out drop everything in every situation and make it optional, but I certainly think that we can try to relax things a little bit more, especially with the heat. With respect to advocating for the kids, I just, you know, I don't want people to think that we're not doing that. I'm constantly working with the executive county superintendent as these different things come out and say, well, what about this and what about that? Can we do this? Can we do the other thing? And working to try to get as much flexibility as I think that we can get away with, if you will, with respect to the governor and applying pressure to the governor and whether or not the board wants to write a letter. I'd be perfectly happy to help facilitate that if the board wants to jump on board with a letter similar to some of those that have already been sent to the governor. I'll look for the board's direction in that. If they want to do that, I'd be happy to share the sentiments that I'm already trying to work through the channels of state government, if you will, in the executive county superintendent, but we want to expand that to the governor, and that's the pleasure of the board. I'd be happy to contribute to that.
I think Mrs. Korn asked a few minutes ago if board members would be able to comment at this time, or should we hold that?
Sure.
Okay,
Do that
so, Mrs. Korn, did you
Or you
want
want
to
to wait
jump
till
in?
board forum, or we could do it now?
I'm sorry, you have to talk closer to the microphone.
We want to wait till board forum, or do it now?
Well,
It's about this.
Does it pertain to this? Then
Yeah.
I think probably
No, it
now
pertains-
is
It
better.
pertains to this, sure.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm going to speak like this because I can't.
Go right ahead.
So we're talking about the safe reopening plan, right, the template, which is part of the American Rescue Plan, which essentially is having us fill this out. It's federal, correct? So we're filling this out so we can get a grant. Was it $2.2 million? Something like that?
If in its entirety, it's supposed to be awarded in two pieces. Actually, two-thirds, one-third, two-thirds, one-third is the split. So the first part is supposed to be about 1.5 million. And then the second, which is roughly two-thirds of the total, and then the second chunk, the other third is supposed to be after, I believe, the state has its plan approved.
Okay.
Because we have to make applications as local LEAs, local school districts, but the state is also doing its own plan, and I think a third of the funds are supposed to be contingent on the state's plan being
So it comes through, a third comes through the state,
Yeah.
a third comes directly from the federal government, or whatever it is,
Yeah,
two-thirds.
so the approval process is two-thirds is contingent on getting your LEA's approval, your local district approval. The other remaining part of the grant, I do not think becomes available until later after the state's plan is approved.
Okay.
The state itself, as a state, has to get a plan approved.
I'm only asking because I was understanding it was federal, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is a template, right?
It's a template, yep.
So it's a template that would go to all the states, all the districts in all the states.
Yeah, I'm
So that-
actually collaborating with some of the other districts to try to come up with something that makes sense.
So
as
there
a-
are states that have completely abolished mandates, like 100%. So I know we have to fill out this health and safety, which seems, this health and safety part seems so dated to me. It was like it was written last February. It's, I mean, Murphy ended the health emergency on Friday, and they're asking us about mask mandates on this thing. They're going to send this to Florida and Texas. So are they going to, and I know we have to do this to get the money. I know we don't get a lot of money, and having the money would help our kids. So that would be advocating for children as well, right? So we would have more money to spend on programs that would help our children. My problem is, it reminds me of Race to the Top money, where they make you sign something that says you're going to do this in order to get the money. And I don't like that, because I don't like signing something that says my kid has to wear a mask, but I don't think it's healthy or in my child's best interest to wear masks at school, or anywhere for that matter. So that's the problem I'm having with it. Actually, I know we are filling out because we have to, and we're trying to be as generic as possible. We're not saying we're keeping, but how do if your state got rid of the mandates, how do you get the money if you have to fill out this health and safety form? Like, it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So that's one of my questions, so I understand why people are questioning why, the whole mask thing came up, because we have to fill this form out as a health and safety, and they're talking about, physical distancing, which we already have everyone back in school. Not everyone, we also have our virtual kids, but we already had to lessen our physical distancing to have, and in September, everyone's back. So it just seems like we're answering questions that are ridiculous, because it's already done, it's over. So what are we doing? And I'm not sure, so I don't see a problem with us pushing back on the governor and losing this, because how can we lose this when everyone, there's people who don't even have to do any of it. So it doesn't seem fair, you know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't get it. So, exactly, and I'm glad someone said something. I said kudos. Mr. Markarian, you were a driving force in getting us open 5 days. I really, truly believe that. And I think we are ahead of a lot of people. Even though people don't want to believe it, we're doing great. But I do agree with I have to say that, because Murphy did say today, he really did. He said today that school officials are empowered to relax masking among students and staff in their buildings given extreme weather conditions such as heat. And I think going outside 90 degrees and coming inside right away and putting a mask on is not good for you either. So I'm just throwing that out there. And you know, and I'm really trying to focus because we're talking about the safe reopening plan, and I don't think it's a terrible thing to, but I don't think it's a great thing to agree to something that we don't think is actually in the best interest of our kids as far as like the masking and the social distancing and stuff that, and the cleaning, which has been totally, I mean, that was debunked like, I don't know, 6 months ago or more, 8 months ago about like it doesn't, surfaces are not a spread. And so it's almost like they don't even know what's going on in the real world, and they're asking us to fill us out. So that's my one of my issues with this is that it's behind the times, and I don't see a problem with us maybe pushing back on these mandates that, I mean, my daughter was in Morristown. Morristown is like, there's no COVID there, but our kids in school, they have to wear masks. They were at the proms. It just doesn't make any sense, you know. That's why people have trouble, because it doesn't make sense, you know. And, you know, I'm sorry, that's how I feel, and I can't not tell you how I feel about, I'm afraid of signing up for money that we have to give away something that we don't want to give away for. That's all. So that's my issue with the health and safety portion of this template that we're filling out for this money, which, you know, that it doesn't seem like it's going to be across the board the same for everybody to do. Because there's so many different regulations for each different state, and it seems silly. But that's it. And I have to agree, like we went out of our way. We did a great job. We got the vaccinations we did for the teachers were like unbelievable. Now our teachers can't even take their masks off. It's like, what's happening, you know? And I know it's Murphy. Murphy won't change it. And I feel like parents also have to write to Murphy. We can't be the only ones because we are a little hamstrung. We can't just say, no, we're not doing it because we are part of the state, a state entity. Therefore, we can't just say we're not doing it. But if all the parents wrote letters to Murphy and maybe we backed it up and said, we don't like this either, we might have something going. Because it doesn't make any sense. His rules don't make any sense. And he's holding on to this one for some reason I don't understand. That sick, healthy children should not be wearing masks. They're not sick. I mean, our school is not a hospital, and those are the two of the places you have to wear masks still. What? So I think it's pushback time. And not only us, we can say it, but he's getting all these letters. I don't think he gives a crap. He cares about voters, though. And if we got enough people in town to say it, he cares about voters. Maybe if a lot of voters wrote to him and said, we don't like this, it might change. So it's not just on us, because we can write a letter. That's one letter from us. It has to be 10,000 letters from people in Basking Ridge who pay lots of taxes and vote. So that's the other thing.
Mrs. McCune, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Mrs. Korn just said about it being like Park, because, you know, a district, we can pass resolutions or we can write a letter from the Board of Education, and I'm not saying I don't want to, but if they don't hear from, like, lots of people, their constituents, you know, it doesn't go very far. I think this template, like, in the template, it just says, like, we will follow whatever the state says we have to do. So if we were in a state that says you don't have to wear masks and you don't have to social distance, we could sign that and say, oh yeah, we're just doing what the state said. So that's how they're doing it in Florida and Texas, because their state's not telling them they have to do it. So that's why the template could be filled out there, and they wouldn't be lying. They'd be saying, yeah, I'm going to do what the governor says we have to do in Florida or whatever state. So I feel like that it is a hoop to jump through to get funding. I think, you know, hopefully they wouldn't actually penalize districts. Like, remember with Park, they were like threatening state, you know, like, oh, if you don't administer Park, we're going to take away your state funding. I would really hope that in the pandemic, they wouldn't be like threatening districts with lack of funding. But it really is a political thing. And I think if people don't like it, then they have to talk to the people that are making these executive orders, because, you know what I mean? We can only do so much. We can't, if there is an executive order, we can't just completely flout it and say we're not going to follow it. So,
no, we wouldn't be flouting it, but it's his own rules thing when the excessive heat that we can do that. We can loosen it. Murphy did say that. It's not. It was in the.
So we're going to have to back up for just a moment, because in the confusion of an extra public comment, I forgot to ask Mr. Markarian if we had received anything through email, and we did.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we did get two public comments that I think would fit in with this section of public comment on safe reopening plans, similar to some of the speakers that we had come to the microphone in person. We received a public comment from Brenda Watt of 99 Culberson Road. We have spent several months with people dining indoors safely. When you are seated at your table, you don't need to wear a mask. I propose that when a student is seated at their desk in class, at an after-school activity, or at a table eating lunch, they should not need to wear a mask. If this was implemented successfully in restaurants, then our children should have the same maskless freedom when seated. Lunchtime at school should additionally be social with no assigned seating. Let the students sit with their friends and socialize mask-free. I hope you will consider having mask-free gym class held outside as much as possible, weather permitting. No masks are needed in the most well-ventilated place possible outdoors. Thank you for your time. There's one other one. Barbara Geary, 66 Dryden Road. Good evening, Mr. Markarian and Board of Ed members. Congratulations to our newest board member, Gaudiya Singh, and thank you in advance for your service. Many superintendents and districts across New Jersey have written letters requesting that Governor Murphy stop making unclear and inconsistent mandates for their school district. I would like to see Berners Township School District send a letter stating that we will make our own decisions as a district. The district has done an amazing job this past year, but it wasn't an easy task given the mandates set forth by Governor Murphy. Earlier today, Governor Murphy posted a reminder on social media, quote, school officials are empowered to relax masking among students and staff in their buildings given extreme weather conditions. These decisions should not be at the state level, and I implore you to take your power back. As a district, we should look forward to a normal school year as many aspects of life are returning to normal. We do not need the state's contradictory mandates to destroy our district and rob our children of another year of education and academic experiences. We need to stand up for our children's childhood. We have managed to keep our COVID rates extremely low throughout the year. Often the state or our region Cali score was red, and we were required to follow state guidelines that would not have applied to our district based on our COVID cases. As a district, we should set our own guidelines, including optional mask wearing and no social distancing. If students can play sports, then they can have lunch with friends in school. The mental health of our children needs to be considered when making these decisions. Please write to Governor Murphy and speak up for our district before Governor Murphy destroys our schools. Thank you. And those were the only two public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. So with that, we are on to public comment on agenda items. So if anyone in the public would like to come forward on any other agenda items? Okay, seeing no one, I'll ask Mr. Markarian, we don't have anything else in email?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. So then we will move on to the approval of minutes. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Beckman and Ms. Korn? And then a roll call, please, Mr. Crute.
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Ms. Singh.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Crute.
Motion carried.
So with that, we are up to Finance Committee report. Mr. Salmon?
There's no report. There's just 5 items on the agenda.
Okay. So can we have a motion to Ms. Korn and Ms. Schaefer?
So the first one is a standing item. The second one is withdrawal of funds from the Capital Reserve Fund for the WAMS Science Lab project. Numbers 3 and 4 are submission of plans for the satellite food service locations at Ridge High School. We're submitting like our primary plan and a backup plan to the Department of Education for approval. And then number 5 is the award of the facilities contract to Aramark.
And Mr. Crew, can we have a roll call? Well, did anyone have any questions? If not, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Ms. Singh.
Abstained.
Thank you, Mr. Crute. So our next item is the Personnel Committee report.
No, there's not a report, and we meet next week.
Oh.
I'm sorry, there's one agenda item for personnel.
Oh, it's in the addendum.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's
right.
on the addendum. Apologies. Can we have
Sorry, I
a
used my paper
motion?
to take notes on.
Ms. Beckman and Mr. Salmon, and then we'll just go right to the roll call.
Okay. Ms. Beckman,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Salmon,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes?
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Korn,
Yes.
Ms. Hira,
Yes.
Ms. Singh.
Abstained.
Motion passes.
And then our next item is the Policy Committee report. Mrs. Korn?
We met today, so we'll be reporting out next week.
You mean you didn't finish the minutes and have time to
I
circulate
did finish the
them?
minutes. I did. Okay, FYI.
You're amazing.
I haven't had a chance
I
to
am
even read
amazing.
them. But you did them lickety-split.
Go, Jen.
I'm not as fast as Mr. Salmon, but I do get them out pretty quickly.
All right,
But I'll
so
read them out tomorrow, next week.
our next item is the Curriculum Committee report. Mrs. White?
Curriculum met on this past Friday, and I will be reporting out next Monday.
Thank you. Okay, and that brings us to the Wellness Committee report. Ms.
I have a
Schaefer.
report, yes. So Wellness met on the 27th of May, and I had my curriculum, or my minutes to Mrs. Smith 5 minutes after the meeting. We met, and the first thing we discussed was some dates, just to let everyone know, we are switching our date for our June meeting back to June 16th, and then we set the dates for the fall meetings. Ms. Smith discussed the return to school trauma-informed practices training that she's setting up for various different audiences within the schools. So the first audience is the counseling staff, and she's going to ask to work with the Center for Counseling Services to bring back George Scott, who has already spoken to the staff about trauma-informed counseling, so specifically in counseling settings. But then the teaching staff, they're working on a workshop to create a custom workshop, actually, for the beginning of the year on what to look for in a classroom, discussing adverse childhood experiences and how it manifests in the classroom, and creating safe spaces in the classroom. The next item we discussed was the career grant application. There's an NJDOE grant we're applying for up to $50,000 for a career exploration and awareness program at the middle school level. Part of that would be the ideas of expanding the Naviance platform to WAMS, which is one idea, which does not include the college piece of it. We don't want middle schoolers looking at college scattergrams. Coordinating a career fair for middle school, and they're still brainstorming some other ideas for the grant proposal. The Career Programming Committee is meeting this summer to continue to develop the career curriculum, and they're going to fold that plan or the application for this DOE grant into that committee. The fourth item we spoke about was the virtual mental health fair. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out, I think it's still posted on the website. It was launched in May. It was really cool because mostly it was done by, well, it was spearheaded by a staff member, but a lot of the content was student-driven. It was very positively received by the students. They rolled it out through the phys ed classes who couldn't actually use the gym because of AP courses, so it was a great opportunity for the phys ed teachers to have the students look at the virtual mental health fair. There was a survey at the end just asking if students enjoyed it. They got actually 740 responses, which is a huge response rate, and they're considering creating a wellness club for next year and over 150 students expressed interest in that, and the majority of those were freshmen, which is kind of nice because then it'll continue through the rest of their 4 years. And finally, we got the K-12 counseling update. At the high school, they're doing testing. It was, this was still May, but APs are probably almost wrapped up. At the elementary and middle school level, they're doing end-of-year testing and MAP testing. The K-8 counseling staff is wrapping up their curriculum lessons. The last lesson is on social awareness, and they are winding down group work. And the 9 through 12, they're doing closing procedures for seniors, final transcripts. They did a survey for seniors who would find out where they're attending college and collecting data about enrollment and careers. So the next Wellness Committee meeting will be next week.
Any questions for Ms. Schaefer?
It's next Wednesday, right?
The 16th.
16th, right?
Yep, Wednesday. 8 a.m.
Okay, if there are no questions for Ms. Schaefer, then liaison committee reports. Mrs. Korn?
We're meeting tomorrow. The Municipal Alliance is meeting
Okay.
tomorrow night, so then
All
I
right.
can let you know about that next week too.
Thank you. And that brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. So if there's anyone out there who would like to come forward to make a public comment regarding anything, now's your chance. Please remember to state your name and your address for the record. Thank you.
Sherry Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road. I just wanted to follow up. I'm not asking you guys to just send a letter and I'm just going to sit at home and do nothing. I was in Trenton on Thursday with a lot of people from Basking Ridge who are actually here tonight. There were thousands of parents out with masks, not masks, signs saying unmask our children. And we were opposed to the legislation that passed that was very contradictory to end the public health emergency and keep the restrictions in place. It doesn't make sense. We are writing letters to our state representatives in the legislature. We are writing to Murphy. We are demanding change as well. We just want you to help us do that. And just so you know, our Assemblyman Bramnick, Assemblywoman Munoz, and Senator Tom Kane, who all represent us, all agree with us. They came out and spoke to us in the crowd because we couldn't go in. They didn't allow a public hearing. They just rushed this thing through. It never went through committee. Nothing. No one could come in and say anything. So we had our public hearing out in front of the Capitol building in Trenton on Thursday. It was raining and it was hot and it was uncomfortable, but we all went anyway. And there were thousands of people there. So we are doing that as well. I didn't mean to say that it was just up to you guys to do that. It is very clear in the tweet he sent today. He said, as a reminder, you're empowered to do this now. You don't have to wait. Murphy has made it clear, and there's enough bullet points in Executive Order 175. You could make masks optional right now. Please do.
Hi, my name is Kathy McCarthy, 23 Tanglewood Lane. First, I want to thank all the board members. As a few other people have expressed this evening, we realize that it's been 15 months of a very challenging job. I have watched every meeting since last July. I have seen you be attacked, and so I want to take the moment to just express my thanks, especially to board members, administration as well, but board members are volunteers, and I think sometimes people forget that. I realize Mr. Markarian does not have to respond to public comment, but I appreciate that you did respond to the mask discussion. However, I'm not clear with where we landed and ended. Tomorrow's another 90-degree day. My daughter is a 5th grader at Oak Street in one of the rooms where air conditioning is broken. She has asthma, and she suffered through the day and last week as well. And so I would like a little clarity. I think something was said like we could perhaps relax restrictions. I would like to get to a more clear comment and discussion perhaps from all of you and decision that starting tomorrow, kids in that situation will not have to wear a mask. And I would like it to be noted that all teachers need to be consistent with this plan. It could not and should not be up to individual teachers to do one thing, keep kids masked, and other teachers in the same position let their kids be unmasked. I think we need consistency as a district. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stella Perna, 105 Tuxford Terrace. I'm here tonight to ask that in the new year we address the mental health of our students. I would like to see something done with our social emotional learning program that we've been talking about for years. And I'd like to see students have opportunities to talk about the stressors that they've experienced in the last year. I think we're walking on a very dangerous time right now with our students, and I don't think that can be stressed enough. I've watched students do things this year that I never thought I would ever see in my lifetime. I saw a quote online that really resonated with me because one of the things I've been asking not only my son, but other people who have children in the school is try to have some normalcy. And part of that normalcy is attending sports, doing scouts, trying to do things that we did before the world shut down. I can tell you one of the stressors, strangely enough, is sports in our school. I find this remarkable, and not in a good way. This quote, I will read it to you verbatim. It says, "Too many students have been taught that the goal of high school sports is to achieve athletic scholarship. Here's the truth. The goal of high school sports is to learn the goal of how to be a better person, a better teammate, a better communicator, and to enjoy being a teenager, and something that you can never get back." I'd like to see that embraced in our school system because frankly, I've been watching, biting my tongue, seeing a lot of things I would never allow for my children to be exposed to, but all in the name of them getting out for some fresh air. I think it's appalling. I know who I need to go speak to, but I wanted to bring it up tonight because I don't think that's something that most of you are aware of. So the year we've had, the stressors that are coming from schoolwork, trying to do it under very strange conditions, but then having an outlet of sports with another stressor. I find that to be such a disappointment. I would hope that we can start the new year with common sense being first and foremost, using masks. Personally, I don't see the point. I feel our district should be leaders, not followers. I'd like to see us be the leaders setting the marquee of how we handle ourselves. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Hi, Caro Tilio Cooper, 14 Mayflower Drive. I just want to be one more person that reiterates every single thing that's been spoken about today about masks, and I also want to make one more suggestion that I see online now. Stafford School District, basically it's choose Honeywell and send something out and let's get it done immediately. Just like Stafford School District, they sent out something on, maybe it's Honeywell or something like that. It says, due to current heat and humidity trend, student and staff masking is optional for the remainder of the school year. So let's do something like that, because it really doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. To me, it's mind-blowing corruption, and we should be a leader and not a follower in the nonsense. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nell Oliveira, 83 Galloping Hill Road. I just wanted to ask, Mr. Salmon had mentioned the last board meeting about his son having to quarantine and things like that, and I'm just curious, it seems that Mrs. Korn is the one person that usually speaks up and kind of identifies with the parents. As a parent with a child in the district, I'd love to hear from the board members, how is this impacting your kids? How are they feeling about coming home and having to be masked and having to deal with the heat and or sitting in the pack to have lunch and all of these things? I know that you're listening. I'm hoping, I'm sure you're listening. I think as parents, as many of us, we'd love to hear the feedback from the board as well as to how this is impacting your families and your kids. So, thanks.
I don't see anyone coming forward, so Mr. Markarian, do we have anything on email?
Sure, so,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Do you have an email comment?
Oh,
before
email
I'll
comment.
close public comment
I
if you
checked
do
a
not,
second ago, there weren't any, I'll double check.
just in case.
Yep. No, no new.
Okay, so
no
then
new
we'll close.
Comments by email.
Thank you. We'll close public comment and then feel free to comment as you like.
Sure, thanks. So what I had said about what I thought would be reasonable is that if students are indoors and they're in a space that does not have air conditioning, that they could take off their masks. I think that's reasonable. I do want to say, in general, that, you know, we've asked the teachers and the administrators to try to implement and support and enforce a lot of changes over the course of the school year, and it is a challenge. And getting the word across consistently, it takes a little bit of time. And, you know, the other thing to keep in mind too is, you know, there are some people who came back to school and said that they wanted to come back to school and they wanted to be in school full time in person with the expectation of what we were doing. And yes, we're in a much better place than we were 2 or 3 months ago, and I'm so tickled that we are. I'm glad that we're having this debate about whether or not we should be wearing masks in school, because it means that we're moving to a much better place and we're hopefully almost over this hump. I just want folks to understand that, you know, some of the things that people chose to do were based on the premise of what we were doing and what we were trying to do, and feeling that we were keeping school as safe as it could possibly be. And so when we, you know, take steps and make change mid-stride, it takes time for people to get consistent, and it may not sit well with everyone. So I just put that out there. I think it's perfectly reasonable that if a room is oppressive and the air conditioning isn't working, as the one parent described about Oak Street, that it makes sense for kids not to have to wear their masks and make life a little bit easier breathing-wise. You know, but just communicating that and getting it to happen consistently when there are, I don't know, 8 days of school left, you know, it's just trying to be realistic about that. And as far as, you know, trying to be proactive and think ahead of the kids, you know, before the governor said it was okay to take off masks when it was hot outside, we started doing that. So I don't want people to think that we're not thinking for ourselves, because we are, and we are trying to take advantage of where we think we can have some wiggle room with the various exceptions to executive orders. And that's why I think it's reasonable that if a room is oppressive because it doesn't have the AC running, that it seems reasonable to me to let people take their masks off. That doesn't necessarily come without pushback in the other direction, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. So our next item is board forum. Ms. Beckman?
I just want to address a couple things. I don't usually talk that much. There's a lot going on outside of the board meetings that I speak in the committees and everything. But I just want to say that we're wearing masks tonight because our kids have to wear masks at school, and we're just here in solidarity with them during the day. But we all don't want to wear masks as well, right? We don't wear masks at home. I had a graduation party. I have twins. I had a graduation party with 40 people in our backyard, and no one had masks, and it was lovely. It was beautiful. But, you know, and for me personally, my kids stayed home the first 3 marking periods, and they really didn't, they were pretty well adjusted. They got to sleep in. They are independent learners, and so it wasn't that big a deal. But they went back to school this marking period. One of them started the beginning of marking period 4, and the other one just went back about 2 weeks ago. And they are so happy to be back at school. And they were okay being at home too, but they just love it. They love seeing their friends. They love finally seeing their teachers that they haven't seen all year. They're realizing what they missed, but they're happy to be there and wearing masks. They're okay with wearing masks. And my one son says on PE, it's like a prison yard, and they just go around the track. But they don't wear masks, and they're outside. So I know someone said that they're wearing masks inside, but they're not wearing masks, going around the tracks, socially distanced, and just kind of talking with their friends. So to me, I haven't really said much because I think we're doing okay, and yeah, I mean, I feel for everybody else, and I want the same things that you guys do. I want 5 days a week. I want normal. I want my kids, not to wear a mask. We're all vaccinated. My whole family's vaccinated. But I don't have I have the luxury of the kids doing pretty good. So anyway, that's my story.
Ms. Schaefer?
I have a question on the flip side. If a classroom is deemed to be very hot and the teacher says the students can take their masks off, if a student doesn't feel comfortable being in a room full of kids who may not be vaccinated, are they excused from the class? Are we going to allow them to leave? Make it up somehow? I mean, we have 8 days left of this school year. Friday, it's only supposed to be high of 60-something, so the extreme heat is going to break. Yeah. I understand that there have to be some exceptions, but I'm concerned about kids who need to be masked for whatever reason that they are in their classrooms. They need to be masked. They're around people who are unvaccinated. They're around people who cannot be vaccinated. What about those kids? I mean, if we lift a mask mandate and say everybody can be free, are we going to have a bunch of kids then? Are we going to allow them to go virtual again? Can we make some special arrangements for them? I mean, 8 days.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm trying to say. It's never as easy as it sounds, right? And we are at the end of a long and grueling school year, and one of the reasons why I've heard many of my colleagues say, well, the reason the mask mandate's not totally lifted is because there's lots of people that still can't get vaccinated. I mean, you read more than you can keep up with, and all the examples of things that just don't make sense. It's an endless list. Let's face it. It's an endless list of things that don't make sense. I mean, we're all worked up about masks, and 99% of what I see are kids seeming perfectly fine wearing a mask. It doesn't seem to bother them. I'm sure they don't like it any more than we do. If you gave them the choice, a lot of them would probably throw it out. But is it really upsetting their day? For the most part, from what I can see, not really. You know, they've been given the option to take masks off while they're running around outside at recess, and many of them still leave them on. You know, I mean, it doesn't, you know, I think it's a culture thing that we've gotten used to this culture of masks, and, you know, unlearning the habit is probably going to take a little bit of time, even once they have the option. So it is, you know, certainly I get it. It's 90 degrees, it's hot, you're miserable. If you had the option to take your mask off, maybe some kids would. You know, does that not create a trickle-down effect? Like I said, some of these folks might have come back to school with the expectation that all these safety measures are in place. And now you make it optional and they turn around and be like, hey, what are you doing that for? I came back to school because I thought you were doing all these safety measures. So you can't win.
Ms. Hira?
Mr. Markarian, I mean, you said, and I'm quoting from you, with advocating for
Ruchika,
children.
can you just move a little closer to the mic, please?
Mr. Markarian, you had said earlier, with advocating for children, and again, I'm quoting, I don't want people to think that we are not doing that. I'm going to rephrase that. We are doing that. We are up here because we are advocating for our children. You are advocating for our children. And despite the guidance, the inconsistent guidance that we have gotten throughout the state, I think we have been pushing to implement policies that are in the best interest of our children. You asked how my children are doing. I have a 6th grader at Lambs who has seen her classmates pass out during gym. Do I think it's okay? No, I don't think it's okay. I have a kindergartner who struggles to keep his mask on. It's not even, his face is so small that the mask won't stay on properly. Do I personally want them to wear masks at this point? No, I don't. But at the same time, with 8 days left, I do think that it's gonna, I don't live in a bubble where I think it's gonna be possible to implement this without possibly not causing some kind of anguish to maybe the next child. So personally speaking, no, I agree. I think it is hot. When it's hot, the mask should come off. But at this point, I guess what I just want to say is that we do hear you. I hear you. I'm listening. My children are right there with you. If something can be done, we do it. And we are definitely trying our best.
Mrs. White?
Also, the other thing is, I think we also have to be mindful that there are many, many parents who feel very strongly that the masks, you know, are ridiculous and there's no science behind them and we should be just getting rid of them. And they are certainly entitled to those opinions, but there are just as many parents who feel differently. And with that being said, there are also many, many kids that, as Mrs. Schaefer pointed out, they're comfortable with the mask and they would be equally uncomfortable with the mask. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong. I'm simply saying that we have to appreciate the fact that there's both sides to this, and we have to be aware that for those kids, if we were to suddenly say, okay, the masks are gone, there is an effect that happens. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't. My biggest wish is when we come back to school in September, masks are gone, but it's not September. And, you know, when you sign back up to come in the marking period for marking period 4, it was, as Mr. Markarian said, with these safeguards in place. And I'm not quite sure it's fair to say to those parents who sign their kids up, well, because there's only 8 days left, we're going to get rid of it, or because it's hot. Like, there are things we can make sure that teachers are giving those kids the opportunities if it's hot when they're outside. But I don't think that it's fair to those parents who have sent their kids back knowing that these are the safeguards that we're just going to pull the plug from them.
Mr. Salmon.
So one of the questions was like, how do you feel about your kids? So I think like everybody else, we are just frustrated. My whole thing is kind of like consistency. Like, I'll be a rule follower, just be consistent. And like when the governor tweets out, reminder, hey guys, just remember that executive order, if it's excessively hot, you know, you can do whatever you want essentially. That is immensely frustrating to me because it was 90 degrees across the state of New Jersey today, and he could have just said, guess what? It's hot, no masks. That would have been very easy to follow. It would have been consistent, bright line rule with the rest of whatever he's done in terms of excessive temperature, so it's just frustrating. And my frustration also lies in the fact that these changes or whatever pronouncements, executive orders are kind of coming after the fact, and they're not happening in real time, and it takes a while, and that's what everybody's frustration is. Why can't we do this in real time? Well, guess what? My frustration exists with the layers, right? So our layers in terms of public health are the Bernards Township Board of Health, who gets their rules from the New Jersey Department of Health. The New Jersey Department of Health put out a guidance for school districts back in August about rules to follow. The last time they updated that was in March this year, when there were like 4,000 cases a day and the whole state was in high in terms of the Cali score. I don't even know if anybody cares about that anymore. It's hard to tell. But that's the frustration, like that everything, there's a lag with everything. And unfortunately, that if the rules were laid out and they were consistent, like Mr. Markarian said, I mean, you know, if it's hot, it's hot. It doesn't matter if you're inside or outside. If it's 90 degrees in a classroom or 90 degrees outside, it's hot. Who cares? But these things aren't being updated in real time. So for the person who said that they're down in Trenton, you know, trying to get things done, good. I'm glad you're down there trying to get people to make decisions in real time. But we, like every other school district out there that's been foisted these, hey, this is a public health question, make your own decisions, which is patently absurd. But there is a framework that we have to live within and have some faith or trust in the powers that be. Whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, that's up to everybody else to decide for themselves, but that is the framework. So when I get asked, you know, why are we still wearing masks? Why are we doing that? There is that framework. Do I wish the Department of Health would update their guidance since there are now 200 cases a day? Yes, that would make sense to me. I would hope somebody was doing that, but it doesn't appear that they are. So unfortunately, that's kind of what we're stuck with. And like we've done, you know, these kind of like incremental steps, and that's been the story of this. Incremental baby steps. Big sweeping changes are not happening. So I agree with the, you know, like Mr. Markarian said, if it's hot, take the masks off, whether you're inside or outside. And, you know, whether there's 8 days left or 1 day left, in my mind, it should not matter. Because, you know, we don't need, we're not in a position to have a balancing decision between, okay, should we keep the masks on because that's what the Department of Health has been telling us to do and risk a kid passing out, or should we take the masks off and then have the risk of a potential COVID incident? How is a school district in a position to make a decision like that? And we're not. That's the answer. Nobody's a virologist. So I feel frustrated. Any email or anybody that I speak with about this, I feel frustrated because every person brings up the same thing. How come people can go to restaurants? How come people can go to malls, not wear masks, but the kids have to wear it in school? And my answer is because somebody made that rule. And unfortunately, I do have, though waning these days, some trust in the overall system that we live in. But I just wish that there would be more consistency from the top down, and I don't think we're getting that right now, and I feel everybody's frustration 100%. On a lighter note, I would like to say thank you to Ms. Richmond. When I came on the board, obviously there's been people on the board longer than me, and I think here we are really lucky because one of the trainings in board 101, being a good board member, is go to the trainings, talk to other board members, and I think for myself personally, I was extremely lucky to have other long-serving board members that were, informal mentors, and I really appreciated that. Ms. Swerner before she left, and Ms. Richmond. So I want to say thank you. Unfortunately, it took me this long to get the thank you out, so I apologize for that. But thank you for being a mentor for a new board member, and I wish you the very best. So thank you.
I think Ms. Schaefer wanted to respond, or no?
Well, I was just going to agree with Tim, both to thank you, Karen, but also the inconsistency is the thing that has driven me crazy about this entire pandemic. We don't have the information, and I can appreciate the people's perspective who are here in the audience, but who is missing today is some of our health profession people, and as much as I don't agree with everything they have to say, it's the best that we can do right now. We've got to listen, to whatever guidance we're getting from the health department, so.
Ms. McCune.
Yeah, when Mr. Salmon started talking about being frustrated, I was thinking about our last board meeting was just, like 2 weeks ago? And we talked about quarantines and the fear of your kid getting quarantined at the end of the year and not, being able to go to activities. And luckily, we've been doing really well, and there's been very few cases. I took my 5th grader, don't tell him I'm talking about him. That's why I don't talk about my kids, because I always get in trouble because somebody at school tells them that I was talking about them. But he came home from school on Thursday, the day after the 5th grade celebration, where he was with all the 5th graders in the school, and he didn't feel well. And I had college kids coming home that night and stuff. I took him for a COVID test just to be safe, make sure he wasn't going to expose all of the people coming to my house that night. And the whole time I was thinking, how many kids did he see? Was he on the bus with them going to the 5th grade celebration? We just were asking 2 weeks ago to not quarantine whole classes of kids, and now we're talking about having no masks, which is clearly a sign that things are a lot better, right? Like Mr. Markarian said. To think that we're even talking about taking off our masks and stuff 2 weeks ago, we weren't even close to that point. So I feel like it's super frustrating. It's hot. It's the end of the school year. There's 8 days left or whatever. Everyone wishes it was like today that we could just take off the masks. I don't think any of us are thinking, when we were making this document, for the state, going forwards, we don't want any of this to be going on in September, clearly. I just think, like a couple of other people said, we're so close to the end of the year. I think we just have to ride it out. And obviously with the extreme heat, I totally agree that we should let people take their masks off if there's not air conditioning and it's hot, or if someone gets overheated, in PE class, they shouldn't have to put it right on the second they walk in if they're too hot to put it on. But I think, we just have to get through the last couple of days. And as far as thank yous to Mrs. Richmond, I can't believe you're leaving. It's very sad, and I feel like we haven't even seen each other in person, the whole time in COVID. So it's surreal, to have you sitting out there. It's totally bizarre. But thank you for being such an amazing board member and being here for all of us and always being a voice of reason and a calming presence. Although you sometimes think you're not a calming presence, you are, even though you cry sometimes. So we'll definitely miss you a lot.
So being the only board member here without a student in the school, I can't really speak to what my students would be saying. I feel conflicted. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Mr. Salmon said. It's frustrating, it's mind-boggling, it's infuriating. And as we've been sitting here, we're already getting emails saying, please don't take away the masks. We're already getting them. So I implore everyone in the audience, first of all, I applaud those of you who went down to Trenton, and thank God for you. I think it's awesome. But try to put yourselves in our position. There is no easy answer, and there hasn't been for 15 or 16 months. Nothing is as simple as we just do this or we just do that. Everything has multiple points of view and multiple implications. We have a lot of things to consider. I think in the spirit of that, the 8 days, I'd rather not see us do something that is going to upset or concern staff and other students. However, and this is where I get really frustrated because I hate the heat. I hate it. I think it's awful to have to be in a mask in 90 degrees. We had this conversation earlier this evening, and I think 75 degrees for an entire class day is too hot to be wearing a mask the whole time. But we have to work within what we have to work with. And right now, it's not as clear as we would like it to be. And I think we do have to just tough out the 8 days. Now, that being said, I hope that for the instances where we have students, whether with special needs or special circumstances medically, that we are addressing those individually and not just hoping that we can, bide our time and finish out the school year. That said, now for Mrs. Richmond, I don't know if I can say it without crying, but the best thing that ever happened to me was meeting Mrs. Richmond on the Board of Education in my Board of Education experience. She has been a dear friend and an excellent board member, and I think all of you who are sitting here know some endearing story or quality about her. She's a really special person, and I'm going to miss her. So with that, we are up to adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just need to share one Karen Richmond story. So I was a Cedar Hill parent with Karen, although kids all different ages, and then I followed along as being a PTO president, and she was the chair of advocacy. And at the end of the year of my first year as a PTO president, and probably the second year she did this too, we would have this meeting when you would bring in whoever was going to be taking over. And the very first time I'm there, we go in, and there is a spread of breakfast foods that she has made. And I thought it was so nice, and then the next year I thought it was so nice, and then they put me in charge of advocacy, and they shifted us around, and all I could think to myself is, crap, like, there's no way I have time to provide breakfast for these meetings. And I always thought, like, I don't know how she did that.
Well, needless to say, you'll be missed, and we are grateful for the time you served on the board and for what you did for our community in your capacity as a board member, as well as your many other volunteer roles in your time in all the schools. So with that, I think we are up to adjournment. So if anyone would like to make a motion, Mr. Salmon and Mrs. White, and all in favor? And no one's opposed. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. It's nice to see people in person.